Hi, I'm John the Counter-Apologist, and this is a very impromptu video. I just saw that Capturing Christianity uploaded a video with William Lane Craig trying to tackle one of my favorite arguments for atheism, which is, if God exists, why weren't we all created in heaven? So it's about a minute and a half for that, they say, and it should be a pretty short response on my part, so I just want to get right to it. Let's give this a go.
In heaven there is no evil. In heaven good exists in the absence of evil. So why couldn't God create the world with no evil? Thanks.
I think that it's possible that the reason there is no evil in heaven is because the freedom to sin has been removed. I think that God has created us in this world to go through a sort of veil of decision making, during which we are at something of an arm's length from God. God's existence is obscured. And this permits us to have the freedom to reject him or to follow him. But when we go to heaven, then I think we will see Christ in all his glory and all his beauty. And that vision of God will be so overwhelming that it will effectively remove the freedom to sin. I like to compare it to a huge electromagnet with iron filings in its present. The iron filings would be immediately attracted to stick to the electromagnet, and they couldn't possibly fall away because of its overwhelming force. And so God, I think, has given us this opportunity in this lifetime to freely choose where we want to spend eternity. But once we do make that choice and go to heaven, then the freedom to sin will be removed by what medievals called the beatific vision of God.
All right, so a couple things to talk about. First one, props to Craig. It's a good analogy with the iron filings and the magnet. Um, nice, I think that's a interesting response. I guess the question is that why would we have it? Um, why would we not just be created in such a situation anyway, right? The freedom of sin, the freedom of the ability to sin is removed. So why are we created at arm's length? Why were we not created just in heaven? You'll notice he didn't quite answer that question. He just says, well, we are created. We're given the ability to choose between where we want to spend eternity, whether or not to choose to love God. The problem with that is God, in such a situation, on Craig's theology, is supposed to be the ontological foundation of the good. His nature defines goodness, quite literally. The issue is that God does not have the freedom to choose to sin or not. God is literally logically impossible for God to sin on Craig's own view. As such, it is logically impossible on his view that it is good to be able to choose to whether or not to love God or to follow him or whatever, right? God is supposed to be this triune of love. The Father loves the Holy Spirit, who loves the Son, who loves the Holy Spirit. Big triangle thingy. Anyway, we're going to pretend that's coherent, and we're going to say that Craig's on his own view. We're just going to kind of grant this. So there's just no basis for there being any value to be had in choosing whether or not you having the freedom of will to choose to sin, at least, right? Because God could have be freed. He could have made the planet different, made the sky pink instead of blue for whatever reason. But he doesn't have the freedom of will to choose to sin, so there cannot be any goodness to the ability to have the freedom of choose to sin. I think soul building theodicies, I know he didn't give one here, those also fail because if God is supposed to be the locus of all value, then God did not get to grow, right, and choose, right? So there can be literally nothing good or valuable on the Christian view that centers God's nature as the ontological foundation of goodness with growing and building a soul. So there's nothing there. I think Craig just kind of avoided the question for the most part. I do find it hilarious that he thinks that God is kept at an arm length and his existence is skewed when he tries to, in his popular works, present it how God must necessarily exist. So that's the end of that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.